councils and local communities to do things, which it currently doesn't do very well. We have one MP in the House of Commons at the moment, Caroline Lucas. She does the work of about 20 people because she's there on her own, and she's always pushing environmental and climate change measures. But yeah, we need people on Milton Keynes Council to push this stuff as well, because otherwise some of the politicians on there will just think, is this a vote winner? Oh dear, no, so I won't do it. Whereas certain things need doing just simply to save the planet, whether it's a vote winner or not.
So which area are you paying more attention or giving more attention to?
The thing that I campaign on most is transport.
Okay.
Because that's the biggest carbon emitter. When you look around housing, workplaces and so on, transport is the biggest CO2 emitter in Milton Keynes, and it's worse here than in many other places, partly because of the design. And I just kind of disagree with what the other two speakers said in their introductions. They said Milton Keynes was built for the car. That is true, but it was also built for the bicycle, and it was built for walking, and it was built for buses. So it's only half the picture to say it was built for the car. It hasn't turned out, and I say this is if you go back to the original 1970s planning documents. There was one called, I think it's Plan MK, from 1970 that the Keys Development Corporation did. And if you go and look at that in terms of how people will move around, it says yes, there will be roads and people will drive, but it says that the grid roads will be 40 miles an hour, not 70 miles an hour. It says that there will be redways, the cycleways, for pedestrians and cyclists, and yes, they're there, but not used as much as they could be. And it says there will be regular bus services. And frankly, the bus services are worse now than they were 6 or 7 years ago, because the government has cut funding to councils, and that meant the council has cut some of the subsidised services that it used to run. So we now have large areas of Milton Keynes without any or perhaps just like one bus an hour or something like that. So transport, I think, from the transport sector is the worst performing in Milton Keynes, and sadly, getting worse, not better.
Thank you. Well, I'm coming to Mrs. Jane now.
Thank you.
Milton Keynes is for the cats.
Yes, well, if I can just clarify my point about that. I mean, we're talking about a new development, and we're talking about the infrastructure really, and the way that the system prioritises the car. It also prioritises male transport patterns. And yes, back in the beginning of Milton Keynes, the designers were probably quite male gendered, I would have thought. And it was fantastic. You've got a lovely leisure route, the redways, but if you try to use that as part of your main transport system, personal system, I can't travel at night on the red. They're not lit. They've got potholes, they've not been maintained. The signage is not very good. You can get lost quite easily, and some of the routes take you through the neighbourhoods, and at night they're not always safe. So these have not been designed. It was lovely to have leisure routes that connect the neighbourhoods, but they're not designed as part of a transport system. So, we have a lot of do to create the integrated transport system of the future. And I know that there are some technologies coming forward which should help that. I mean, the current thinking at the moment is small automated buses shuttle buses, which will help people travel up and down the grid roads and perhaps into the neighbourhoods and connect people better. And they'll be accessible, you know, they'll be automated, so there'll be no driver, but they might have lifts that take, you know, wheelchair users can get, people with bikes can get on. So that's great, and they're going to be testing some of those shuttles in Milton Keynes next year, early next year. But how long will it be before those actually become, you know, part of our real system? It could be 10, 15 years. We'll be way past the target date for becoming carbon neutral. It's not happening quickly enough. So, you know, but I don't want to knock the council, because they are doing some really good things with very limited resources. And for example, how many people here have used the Get Around app to plan your travel? No? Great. So the council have got a third party to develop an app, and you can put into that your destination, where you start from, your destination, and it will give you a range of different transport options. It doesn't say you choose which option, oh I want to go by car, and it just gives you the car. It will give you all the different options. If you go by car, it will take you this long, this route. This is how much carbon you're going to be emitting. It will tell you how much, it will compare it if you use a bike, or if you use a scooter, or if you walk. So this is helping people to make better choices. So I would encourage you all to go to your app stores and go and download this app and try it out. And it's not perfect, but actually the only way it will improve is if more of us use it and feed back to the council, and we'll improve it together. So, you know, go and have a look at that, and look at some of the other things that the council are trying to do to help us move to a carbon neutral way of living. Okay?
Well, judging from your background, you're, you know, being an architectural engineer, renewable, you know, engineer. What do you think will be done, you know, in order to reduce the emission from our buildings?
Like I said earlier, the National Grid, within their rights, they are decarbonized to that grid. And so if we electrify a lot of things within the community, we will be reducing our carbon emission. Recently something happened. Let me just take you back to transport a bit. I think this River is the main transport, operating the main commercial bus in Milton Keynes. And they applied for the Zebra funds earlier this year, and they were denied the funds. They wanted to electrify the Melton depot so that all the buses running within Milton Keynes would be electric buses. Now, they were not given that fund, and I was reading into the details to find out the reasons why they were not given. And one of the reasons there was that their bid was not commercially viable enough. So maybe they were not going to be able to pay back the funds, maybe because of the amount of routes they run or the number of people that use the buses. I don't know the detail of that.
Or their turnover.
Or their turnover. Yeah. And so this is a big problem. If we want to electrify the community, like he has said, transport is one of the biggest emitters of carbon, and we have to look at it critically. I focus more on the transport sector, so we must try to electrify buses. I don't know what council will do in conjunction with the private operators of the transport routes like Stagecoach and Arriva, which is common around Milton Keynes, so that they can help them up, get the funding so that they can electrify their buses, because it's quite expensive for them to electrify the depot. That's the infrastructure, which will charge the buses. Then the buses itself are also expensive to get on. There are several funds out there, a lot of companies that do CSA funds, which they would supply you the buses and the infrastructure and you pay. No, it has to be commercially viable for the operators to go into it. So I don't know how that's going to be done, but if he says things, was it?
Give you a bit more information
on that. Okay, so he's going to give us more information on that.
Yeah, we did have some electric buses operating here for about 5 years on the Route 7, which went from Bletchley through central Milton Keynes to Wolverton. They were a pilot scheme. They operated, as I say, for a good few years, and they worked. They were charged from what's now an old technology, where there was a hole in the road with an induction plate in it, and the bus stopped over that, lowered a plate, and used induction charging to top up its batteries. That was a sort of thought to be a viable technology about 10 years ago when that was done, but gradually they started with those. Stopped using them. Then, as was said, another grant was given by the government under what? Zero emission. And is that other microphone more reliable? Can you hear me? Yeah, let's try this one. The council. Do you get it? So I just do it without the microphone. Okay. The council and Arriva initially had come to an agreement about how they would use the government grant to both buy the electric buses and install the charging points, which for that second one were going to be in the depot rather than out on the road. But eventually the council and Arriva fell out and could not come to an agreement when it came to actually signing on the dotted line. Each blamed the other, saying, no, we were fine, but the other side weren't. I've spoken to both, saying they both blame the other. But there are, so at the moment, we've gone from having some, like I think it was about 7 electric buses to no electric buses, which is a retrograde step. And we really thought that we were going to get this Zebra grant was going to be for about 60 buses. It would have been most of Arriva's fleet. So we really thought, hey, this is great. We'll get electric buses, no emissions, and also new buses, rather than ones that are 10 years old. And then sadly, it fell apart. Whether they will manage to do, there are further bidding rounds for these grants, whether they'll manage to sort it out or not, I don't know.
Thank you. You have a question? Yeah.
Hello, this is Chief Gravity, and I have questions to Adam. Regarding small electrical mobilities like scooters and bikes and bicycles. So, if you consider working class, basically working mothers, working parents, they have to drop their kids every day in the rush hours. So I see the pushing these micro mobility, but they are not completely sustainable solutions, because sustainability is not just a planet sustainability of livelihood and life. So freedom of mobility for everybody. So I understand that one segment of the population will concentration on micromobility and bicycles, but there is the segment, the most this is very prominent, like the working class. So they need to rely on the automobiles. So how do we solve this?
Reconciliation.
It's not yet. Well, the council are actually aware of this, and they are trying to address giving access to bikes to disadvantaged groups. So there is a scheme for students who are very disadvantaged that they can actually be recommended to get a free bike. Some schools can do that. They are allowing people to have a e-bike for a month to try them out, so that they can see the benefit and see how they get on with it. There's a company called Cycle Saviours, and I think they recycle